Oh my gosh. Perfect. Gonna have the should we? And just put them up on here? A winner mid-level and a winner junior. Well, and then it's funny. All right, we are going to kick things off. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here at Mayo Clinic. I am Raina Hale. I work at the Mayo Clinic Office of Entrepreneurship, and this is my wonderful co-host, Mary McCarthy, who works at the University of Minnesota Technology Commercialization Office. We are so grateful that you are joining us both in person and many virtually today for an afternoon of ice fishing. However, our lakes are not frozen over yet, at least here. But we are going to celebrate the many, many innovators in this room today. For those of you that are new to Walleye Tank, it started in 2016 by Jamie Sunsback and Dr. Stephen Ecker as a way to celebrate the entire bio and medical innovation entrepreneurial system here. It is a way for us to celebrate as well as compete in this space. The inaugural event of the Walleye Tank launched several exciting outcomes, including the one where Jamie pitched what is now Collider. Today, Walleye Tank is Minnesota's life science pitch competition that provides an educational, promotional opportunity for emerging and established medical life science companies. Today, as many of us, many of the walleyes that are here, we got to walk through the walls of Mayo, and it is a humbling experience for the grandeur of Mayo, but also to walk alongside the patients that these technologies will one day impact. It is important for us to remember the work that is being done here and to remember that innovation and helping these patients and our loved ones one day is a gift for us to be working through as an entire ecosystem. So I'm excited that Mayo Clinic not only gets to host it in the winter, but that we collaborate with Minnesota as a state. Many of you also realize or have heard the $5 billion investment that Mayo is putting into Rochester. And I am excited, we are excited for what that means for the state of Minnesota, for the Rochester ecosystem, and for life science technologies moving forward. Today, you are going to hear from a couple of teams. Some are in the junior category. There are 5. They're called our junior anglers. They're early stage in their journey. 7 teams who are working through prototypes and beginning to raise capital are competing in our mid-level division. For those of you returning to Walleye Tank, you will see that we don't have a professional division this year. Instead, we have a large junior and mid-level division. These teams are going to be judged by our Walleyes who are here in the front. They are a fierce group of life science educators, entrepreneurs themselves, who are in the health tech business development experts, and they are going to be joining us asking ferocious questions to our pitchers today. The divisions, they will have 2 minutes to pitch. They are under a timer. Mary and I will make sure they stick to their 2 minutes that they get, and then the judges will ask them 3 minutes worth of questions. It's important to note that none of this work would be possible without the help of our supporters. The University of Minnesota Medical School and Mayo Clinic's Office of Entrepreneurship are the ones who are funding the prize money today. The Tech Comm Department, the Medical Alley Association, the Department of Employment, Economic Development, Launch Minnesota program are all programs that are supporting this day, this event, and continue to be key partners as we strategize moving forward with healthcare technologies. With that, you don't want to hear me talking anymore. Let's go fishing.
So I will be introducing our judges for the junior level companies pitching. I'll start with Dr. Katie Campbell at the end here. She's a returning Walleye and a current assistant professor of interprofessional education at St. Kate's, also known as St. Catherine's University, a women-centered, minority-serving institution. She completed her PhD in molecular biology, molecular pharmacology, and experimental therapeutics. It's a lot to say. At Mayo Graduate School with a research emphasis on regenerative medicine. As a postdoc, she co-taught courses in entrepreneurship through the Mayo Clinic Office of Entrepreneurship, yay, and now brings the innovative lens to her ongoing curricular and co-curricular leadership. Currently director of collaborative undergraduate research at St. Catherine's University and principal investigator on an R25 research education program funded by the National Institute on Aging. These synergistic roles provide Dr. Campbell a unique perspective on supporting and empowering BIPOC women to pursue STEM research and build solutions to national systems of inequity. Thanks for joining us. Diane Rucker. Diane is an angel investor and an active mentor in Minnesota's growing entrepreneurial ecosystem. She has an executive MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management and degrees from MIT and University of Michigan. She's no slouch. She is a faculty member of Technological Leadership Institute at the University of Minnesota. Diane serves on several boards, including the Generator G-Beta Advisory Board. Diane invests in funds with a focus on Minnesota and Midwest startups and is an LP in Groove Capital, Tundra Ventures, Generator, Bread and Butter, and Great North Ventures. She and her husband Derek live in Apple Valley with their 3 awesome daughters. Thanks for joining us. Kyle Brandy. Kyle joined Mayo Clinic Ventures in 2021 and is responsible for facilitating the development and commercialization of Mayo Clinic technologies by working with Mayo Clinic staff and external companies, entrepreneurs, and investors. Prior to joining Mayo Clinic Ventures, Kyle worked in the genomics lab within the Department of Lab Medicine and Pathology. Super. Thanks, Kyle, for joining us. So we're going to kick it off now with our first lovely pitcher, who is Dr. Ali Garibi Lauren. Come on down. All right. Think. You're good. Good. Okay.
Hi everybody, my name is Ali and I'm going to present a hydroretractor today. The problem is current retractor, none of them are can retract tissue from inside the body. Surprisingly, we don't have any retraction system in minimally invasive surgery that can cause many complications and made some surgeries impossible. It's good to have a fast retractor in a critical situation. You can appreciate that how a hydroretractor can retract tissue from inside. This design can expand 9 to 25 times itself and can fit from minimally invasive surgical exposure. In the optimization area, it is important to know the prolongation of this surgery complication and the surgeon burnout, and minimally invasive surgeries are growing every day. it is a good business because it is just a tube. It's very easy to make. You just need to make it in different sizes and use it for all kinds of surgeries. It is very easy to use and understand, and profit is expected profit market is 2.8 billion. Lauren MD Corporation includes inventor, have first exposure to the field, and investor, lawyer who patented the idea and registered the company, mechanical engineer, and chemical engineer. But the fact is, all of them just me, and I know I can't go far alone. And right now I am looking for a principal investigator to help me apply for STTR application. And for recap, this design is a single solution for all kinds of surgeries, just different size, different power. It is lightweighted, fast, easy, simple, compact, as you see here. And the direct benefits is like less sleeping, less operation time, fewer person in the OR, and less burnout. Indirect benefits like less infection, less hospital stay, less complication, less lawsuit expenses for the hospital. And yeah.
Thank you for your pitch. One first question I have, you have a lot of value propositions listed on this last slide. I'm wondering, as you look ahead to prioritizing data collection and building an evidence base for these value propositions, which one do you look to have data for first?
This is a good question. I'm going to go for a very simple surgery in a veterinary surgery field, like simply just a hernia surgery. Or I get very nice advice a couple of days ago about the laparoscopic surgery, and the surgeon told me that they have to put a patient, we call that Telenderenberg situation, position, to very weird position that can cause respiratory problems, to do some kind of robotic surgeries that could be even life-saving. So I have a couple of options, and I think one of these should be a good idea to pursue.
Thank you.
All right, great presentation. I was just curious, where do you see yourself fitting in with the company as it moves forward and move toward commercialization?
I'm a graduated MD and research fellow, neurosurgery research fellow right now, and I hope I can be a consultant later that can give consult to, hey, I think in this area we can use it, and this modification could help us to do it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. Could you tell me a little bit more about how easy it is to replace the current devices with what you're proposing, and to what the competition would look like as
Yeah.
you look forward to the market?
Right. As I mentioned before, there is 3 paths that I predicted. What we currently have, and I think it's going to be always in all surgeries, the current aesthetic retractors. Those retractors are one pathway that I have competition with, and this retractor is very easier to make than them, also it's the single design. It just needs to be in different sizes and different power. It can do eye surgery, very delicate, and I can control the pressure on the tissue, which is another advantage of this retractor that other conventional retractors don't have. And there is like list of that I didn't have the time to bring in the slides to compete with them. But the next thing is, even there is a field that there is no competition. In minimally invasive surgeries, we are using $1 million robotic hand or laparoscopic hand to push a tissue aside, which it is ineffective in some situations, and it would be like I can tell, revolutionize some kind of surgeries at least. The bubble in laparoscopic surgery in obese patient, it is always a problem. And it could be like, put it in the side, push the fluid. It gives the surgeon like safe tunnel to do the surgery. And the one of gynecology surgeries directly mentioned that to me, like for ovarectomy surgeries in obese patient, if it works, it would be great. And the third thing is in emergency situations and in the situation that we have limited resources like battle, we want something like this instead of a bag of metals that we need to sterilize. It's heavy, bring it, take it. But if you have this with only one syringe filled with saline, you can, let's say we have a laceration and we have a bleeding in the vessel in the arm. You can put it here, push the syringe, it push the muscle and skin aside, and you do the neurovascular surgery. So it is three-field.
Very good. Okay, next up today is Ikram Khan with Advanced Trauma Analytics LLC.
Hi. So last Thanksgiving, Tom and his family was traveling to their grandparents' house. In the way, they hit the car accident. And by the time EMS team arrived, they saw them pretty soaked in the blood. And Tom's daughter's rib was fractured and pierced in her right lung, and she was protruding internally. And when she arrived at the hospital, she was dead. This could be fate for any one of us, the way US trauma system exists. To better understand, I spoke with more than 30 experts and understand that there's two main challenges exist. One is variability in the EMS system with their processes and the manpower skill set. Second is that the poor communication and data coordination in the EMS ecosystem. To address that, we designed clinical decision support system to have better triage and also better data sharing and communication within the EMS stakeholders. To validate that, we went through more than 2,000 patients at 5 global sites and did heuristic and usability study and incorporated all those feedback. Since 1960, trauma has been a neglected epidemic and is still #1 cause of death for the US adult. We, team of trauma surgeons and health system leaders, have been working and filed for 2 US patent and looking to address this business need by saving more than 120,000 lives globally, as well as saving second biggest US healthcare expenditure by saving 51 billion annually with this cost. As a next step, we are looking for some legal support with Walleye tanks, prize money, and we don't want anyone's family to be fate like Tom's. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you about some of the research that you've done as you look at this as a business growth. You have a strong team of trauma surgeons. What have you heard from the EMS teams that you've spoken with so far? What needs do they see as well?
So whatever we are saying, variability and the poor communication, this is what from EMS team. I directly spoken with the EMS director from Minnesota as well as from Wisconsin, and they also came with a similar kind of challenges which they have. And the system is, US have more than 21,000 EMS system exist, and they don't talk with each other. And they have a huge variation across rural to urban within different trauma level from level 1 to level 4, and they don't talk when they try to transfer from one patient to other patients. It's a huge challenge.
Great, thank you, Ikram. I was just curious if you've done any research into what kind of regulatory approval would be necessary for a product like this.
So there's a FDA approval which we need to go through once we try to have it, but we have not touched that piece because we are very early stage. We have to go through, and we are getting this IP from the University of Minnesota, and after that we'll be talking with the FDA and other people to understand that part.
Great, thank you. Are there any other products that are FDA approved for this?
I'm not sure about for the civilian market, but there's one product which is for the military market, which is acquired by one of the multi-billion and multi-country the technology company.
Thank you.
Thank you for your pitch. From what you described, there's a lot of different communication systems being used and they don't talk to each other. Does this tool replace those, or does it need to become compatible with those different systems, and how do you ensure compatibility?
So there is a compatibility technology, FHIR, which we have already incorporated in our preliminary app, but as we are going for the market entry, so then we have to restructure that. But again, the same compatibility, FIHR, we need to follow that.
The third group pitching is Baramandic from Signal Grab. Come on down.
Hi, I'm Bora Mandic, and this is Signal Grab. I'd like to start off with these two images. Can you tell what color these traffic lights are showing? They're from the same intersection in San Diego and have been put through a filter which shows what a colorblind individual might see. Were you correct, and would you have known to stop at the red light? This is a challenge that nearly 7 million colorblind Americans face every time they drive at night, and unfortunately, there are no accessible options on the market to help them. This forces these drivers to use other risky context clues, such as blinking lights and stopped cars, to determine whether they need to stop or go. My solution is an easy-to-use mobile app that audibly informs drivers of the traffic signals in front of them. So far, I've developed a prototype machine learning model, which takes in images of the street and outputs what signal is present. Machine learning is a field that has exploded in recent years and provides very powerful capabilities, and it's easy to use. I've also developed a prototype Android app, which can take photos using the user's camera, run them through this machine learning model, and output what signal is present. Currently, I'm thinking about using a direct-to-consumer business plan as I seek to validate market size and willingness to buy. And in the future, I'm looking to modify my app into an embedded device and market it to car manufacturers. I'm currently a high school junior at St. Paul Academy, and for the past 6 years, I've studied computer science. I also have entrepreneurial experience, and last year I founded Brickshare, which was selected as a RISE Global Finalist, Minnesota Cup semi-finalist, and an Awesome Foundation grant recipient. I'm asking for assistance in traffic light image collection and in legal support to determine best practices for future development. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a couple questions. One lead in on the machine learning part of it. There's a number of different inputs at most intersections. How does your machine learning algorithm distinguish between which one the driver needs to pay attention to?
Well, I'm currently in the process of data collection, just improving my model, and this means getting thousands. My goal is 20,000 images of just traffic lights from many different positions, and that way the machine or my computer will be able to figure out these patterns on its own.
Great, thank you. And as a follow-up to that, is there an audible signal to the driver as well, or is it a visible signal on their mobile device?
Yeah, so I'm trying to, as you saw in this image, it has a visible signal, but I'm also working on implementing an audible signal so the user does not have to look at the screen at all.
Great, excellent presentation. I was just curious, for the data you're using to train your model, how are you going back and getting those images?
Sure. There's one open source data set that I used for this prototype model, but since then I've gathered over like 10 hours of just driving around during the day and night, and uh, and I'm now currently in the process of just analyzing all of those images and labeling them.
Can you speak to a little bit more about, I guess, how the model learns when you're in motion? So if you're approaching an intersection, that's different because the environment is changing I guess, as you go forward. Is there a value in training it on videos of approach to the intersection compared to just the images?
Sure. Basically what my app does is every minute it runs a new image, or not every minute, every second it runs a new image through the model. So that way you're kind of simulating a video, although it has like a much lower frame rate. And so this way you can optimize like efficiency and also still make sure that it's catching everything.
Another quick question. You mentioned a direct-to-consumer model. If you would think about partners that would be helpful to you, are there any that come to mind at this point?
I'm not sure. This is definitely something, like I mentioned, I'm requesting legal support, and this is one of the things I need help with.
Great, thank you very much.
Oh, yes. The fourth company pitching is Care Chronicle with Justin Fleshig.
Good afternoon. I'm Justin Flexi, the founder of Care Chronicle. This is John. He was recently diagnosed with heart failure. His physician gave him a list of lifestyle modifications and medications to take, but John didn't understand why. He's a high school graduate, but he didn't understand the language that his provider was using. Understandably, he was overwhelmed. He didn't take his medications, and he was quickly readmitted to the ER. John's story is common, as more than 50% of Americans lack the requisite health literacy to successfully navigate our health system. They are at a substantially elevated risk of morbidity and mortality. They consume more ED resources. They're much more likely to be readmitted, and they consume more provider time, often unreimbursed. The good news is that health literacy investments work. A Mayo Clinic analysis found that reducing the grade level readability of discharge instructions resulted in a decrease of patient-initiated messages and a staggering 80% decrease in emergency room visits. The bad news is that this is not a scalable process. We founded Care Chronicle to change that narrative. We're transforming complex medical documentation like notes or discharge instructions into manageable steps for patients like John. We're increasing patient engagement with AI-tailored notifications and education personalized to every single patient. I'm joined by an incredible team from some of the best companies on the planet. I myself have over a decade of experience in B2B software as a service product management in life sciences. And we believe that now is the time to strike on health literacy. The average hospital has a negative operating margin. Provider burnout is at an all-time high, and the transition to value-based care is accelerating. Simultaneously, there are some exciting changes in AI tech, specifically retrieval augmented generation, that are opening doors that weren't even possible a month ago. Now, the cost of this is about $2,500 per admission, or $4.5 million to an average hospital. If we target large Epic and Cerner sites, that represents about $5 billion in opportunity. I'm seeking mentorship in this space, specifically regulatory expertise. And our business model, as I alluded to, will be B2B software as a service, initially into hospitals. We want to pilot with an equally entrepreneurial health system to sort of validate what we're saying and get documented outcomes and show how we're helping adhere to value-based care. Thank you.
Great. Great presentation.
Thank
I
you.
was just curious. Obviously, LLM model,
Yeah.
it's a very hot topic right now.
Yes.
So I was curious, with all the competition out there, how does your solution differentiate from other groups that are working on this?
Definitely. I think 2 weeks ago I didn't know. And, as I'm sure everyone here knows, there's been a bit of a black swan event in the industry showing the instability with OpenAI and now Microsoft. Sam Altman's out, he's in. I've always been a proponent of having an agnostic platform. So we're looking into open source technologies, but the plan is to play with all of the existing providers of LLMs on top of something like Llama 2 or Alpaca. And, anyone can do prompt engineering. I think with retrieval augmented generation, sort of decreasing the cost of what's fine tuning a model, there's a bit of a first mover advantage and a follower event going on right now. So it's sort of imperative to be here today. And I have one more addendum I'll add. It's not just the prompt engineering, it's a matter of doing a human in the loop, partnering with the health system and getting documented outcomes, which are the most important thing when selling into a healthcare system. No one cares how cool your tech is, they want to know who else bought it.
Thank you for your pitch. Could you speak a little bit to any of kind of risk or liability for oversimplification of discharge instructions?
Certainly, I think it's ultimately a trade-off. In a perfect world, we have infinite knowledge and infinite time, and you're trading some of that knowledge for greater adherence. So that would have to be something that's opted into. I'm getting around that initially by having a provider in the center. So this will initially go into education departments, then deploy these tailored levels of discharge instructions for each provider. As we sort of move through this life cycle, we'll do software as a medical device to get the approval to solve exactly what you're saying. But right now, someone else will inherit that attestation.
And can I have a real quick follow-up? If you are doing that trade-off between all of the knowledge and perhaps the
Yes.
risk of oversimplification, how do you ensure that there's not bias in who gets the oversimplified version of discharge instructions?
Certainly, I think there's 2 steps. Initially, we'll do levels, so there'll be 4 levels of simplification. And that will be working with a provider by provider system basis. So they'll sort of define that alongside us. In the future, it's not just LLMs, which aren't infinite. You'll be doing something like regression analysis or like gradient boosting and taking in social determinants of health, demographics, their own patient messages, and then that will inform the model that serves these modified discharge instructions. But ultimately, we're going to empower the provider, reduce the time they spend, and give them a better choice to offer to the patient.
A quick question. I know we don't have much time left, but to follow on to Katie's line of discussion,
Yeah.
the oversimplification strikes me as a risk that could be offset with a human element.
Absolutely.
Is there any plans to integrate this, so rather than just a pure AI care instructions, but integrated with a care follow-up or a care team?
100%. Yeah, initially I wanted to go to the care team or, if present, the education department. They'll curate that. We'll work with the care team, approve everything. So we'll have their buy-in before we serve any of this. I think, as you said, there's a lot of risk in just pushing AI notifications out into the world. Everything will be accepted by the provider institution, and getting what you've proposed, you would need a software as a medical device clearance. So, yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, last in this group is Invision Surge Ops with Dr. Indrani Sen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a vascular surgeon. I practice out of Eau Claire. And vascular surgery, I'm not sure if most of you have heard, but is difficult and takes, if not years or decades of practice to get things right. Good outcomes depend on fast surgery. And this is a challenge because, as you can see in the first inset, when we open into somebody, that is what you see, nothing. So to painstakingly dissect out somebody's renal arteries, somebody's mesenteric vasculature is obviously time consuming, and this does not translate to good patient outcomes. Complications can be as high as 10 or 15% and only increase with the increasing complexity of aneurysms. Blood loss, steep training curves, these are all detractants for training. My solution is what I'm calling Invision Serve Jobs. The idea is fairly simple. We already have the capability to take the patient's own CT scan, which almost every patient has, and 3D segment it. The new advantage of this system is that we now place an intraoperative fiducial on a surface that has already been dissected out, which is the first step of any open surgery. Following this, the surgeon wears a headset, which then gives them a real depth relay of the structures which are underlying that overlying tissue. And this, I hope, will help with faster, easier, safer dissections and help in improving patient outcomes. Why now? Because just like I mentioned, we already have the capability to segment these scans. However, I am requesting for help for personnel and finances because at this point, this is a fairly painstaking procedure. We have already been working on something like this, and this is just a model which is kind of showing what I hope to achieve in real depth, but we haven't worked on this yet. Is it a business, like they say here, you betcha? Because it's not difficult to imagine that this will translate across all surgeries. It could be the neck, the body, the bowel, the leg. If you can see what it is inside it before you cut, that can only be super useful. Thank you.
Thank you for your pitch. I have a quick question about kind of, I guess, images versus beating heart tissue. How do you reconcile motion with these images through the headset?
That's a great question. So for most part, the CT has the capability of being a dynamic CT or a dynamic MRI. And in space, for most part, at least for the initial dissections, the structures that we overlay to are fixed. So it's, the renal arteries, the iliacs, the mesenterics, they don't really move so much. And you are right, with the heart, there may be more motion involved, but my first goal is to tackle the mesenteric segment because the heart is right there when you open it. It's really the middle bit which we struggle with.
Thank you. You mentioned the very steep learning curve on when you open up a patient, what you see and what you can immediately do. Do you see this as more of an application for more experienced surgeons, or do you see it as more of an application for learning and training?
I see it as both because even with experienced surgeons, there is still that time gap. And you are exactly right. Until I execute it, I do not know. You see, in my mind, I think it's a wonderful idea. But the transition between doing it, trying it, I have the clinical expertise for that. So, that part is easy. But to actually take that fiducial, put that image onto a Google Glass and give it to me, that's what I need help with.
Thank you.
Great. So speaking to that point about the help you need, have you considered partnerships with companies in this space to help further development?
I had so far gone through, trying to apply through the Mayo internal grants. Obviously, I haven't been successful yet. So here I am.
So kind of to follow up on Kyle's question, you've sought some additional assistance already. What resources or support would be most valuable to you as you build or scale this?
I think some amount of IP support in that, this is obviously an idea. It could easily become an app or perhaps a particular pathway, which being a surgeon, I'm not very familiar with. But other than that, the fiducials, the personnel time to kind of focus on this project, that's what I would anticipate needing help with. Because the underlying capability is all there. Like we have put non-match scans onto headsets, looked at it in 3D space. But to actually match it to the patient, that's the next step.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that is the end of the first junior division. I have the pleasure of introducing Rob Simperman. Rob was recently announced as the director of Launch Minnesota. In his most recent assignment, he was COO of MAP Performance, an e-commerce and manufacturing company serving performance aftermarkets customers around the world. Prior to that, he led North American sales and marketing for Thales Identity and Biometric Solutions, a software business serving federal, state, and local government agencies. Earlier assignments include president at Aero Technologies LLC, a 3M company. I used to work there. And director of strategy and business development for 3M Industrial Business, leading new growth ventures and an organic incubator for the industrial businesses at 3M. Rob, come on down wherever you are.
If I'd known I was following a vascular surgeon, I might not have attended. Thank you, and if I'd known that you were going to read the bio, I would have made it shorter. Yeah, I'm very grateful to be here to represent Launch Minnesota, tell you a little bit about the program. I wrestled a little bit with how to frame the discussion, and many of you, like me, work remote at least some of the time, or have a little bit of experience with that. And I was struggling quite a bit on how do I frame this, and I'm working at home, and I've got a couple of dogs and a cat, and a little bit of ADD, and I'm trying to focus, and then the dogs want to play, the dogs want to go out, the cats are wrestling, and then there's like fur everywhere that I don't really acknowledge until once a week, usually when I'm working in an office, but now I'm at home, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to do this presentation, but there's this fur. And then I start my little robot vacuum, and then I have no excuse, right? And then I started thinking, okay, well, maybe that's the analogy, right? The iRobot has been in the news lately. They're about to be acquired by Amazon for about $1.5 billion. And one of the things I wanted to think about in terms of Launch Minnesota is the mythology around a startup. And when I first learned about iRobot almost 20 years ago, they had gone from like zero revenue or almost no revenue to about 100 million overnight. And that overnight success story is like key mythology for an entrepreneur. We're in healthcare here, so maybe that's not really a thing that we succumb to. But literally, I think there were sub $1 million revenue to 100 million within a year. Now, what you don't know is that that year was like 2004. Company was founded in 1990. So it's 15 years of nothing, and then overnight there were $100 million company. Okay, so it's about dispelling mythology. The other piece is that, from a mythology perspective, we think of an entrepreneur or 2 or 3 brilliant entrepreneurs who are working around the clock to develop a thing in a vacuum, bootstrapping the company and turning it into something really big and scalable and impactful. Right. So again, taking the iRobot example, this was not 1 or 2 or 3 people who worked in their garage and bootstrapped it. This was founded 3 people out of MIT, out of the AI lab. They had support from the university. Began working on, I see a little clapping. Began working on this program, got DARPA funding. So the government had a role in starting to build this company out. And at that point, they had some base technology. They were able to begin learning about robotics. And as Colin Angle, the CEO, would say, every time he went to a cocktail party and said, yeah, I'm running this robotics company, people would say, when are you going to launch the one that'll clean my house? And they weren't working on that yet, but they ended up in a partnership with Johnson Company over in Wisconsin to do commercial cleaning. So then they had robotics and they learned how to clean things. They could deploy that technology into the consumer market. Point here is that it was an ecosystem that built that company to a successful company and ultimately an exit. It wasn't a couple of people bootstrapping. So really that's where Launch Minnesota comes in. We're trying to replicate a similar type ecosystem here in Minnesota, and we got a lot of the fundamentals. I've eaten up most of my time. I'm going to pop through how we do it. And then I'm going to leave it open to you to contact me at any point, because really my only job is to try to help you find the resources you need to take your business to the next level. I just hit I hit this. So 3 things we do: access to capital, both direct and help coordinate, help build out a collaborative culture, and then build on talent and expertise around the state. Quick flyover on technology. The program's been around 4 years. I've been around 2 weeks. I'm really fortunate to, grateful to be able to stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm following the founder, Neela Mulgard, who started this program in 2019. First innovation grants hit at the end of 2019. The funding's been renewed. A lot of emphasis on building out an overall network of hubs around the state, and that's a big thing we've been pushing. So in terms of that first bullet point, increased access to capital. Since the founding of the program, about $6 million in direct innovation grants have gone out to people starting companies. About 3/5 of that into targeted businesses, so women-owned businesses, BIPOC businesses, and 20% of it outside of the Twin Cities. So, one of the things we really think about every day is that while we've got this vibrant, ecosystem developing in the cities, there's stuff in the Northwest. There's opportunities in Duluth and Northeast, every region of the state. So we really want to drive that. Helping connect people to the angel tax credit. And since we started just 4 years ago, 180 companies have been granted funding to push their companies forward. Around the collaborative culture piece, we've got a hub and spoke network we've stood up. We've got 8 hubs across 6 regions in the state. Underneath that, there are 80 organizations that are helping people all over the state in terms of incubation, acceleration type resources. So we're super excited about that. In addition, final pieces around developing talent and expertise. We've been really driving lean startup training all over the state. Work with the Discovery Launchpad with the University of Minnesota. We've also propped up Minnesota Exchange, which is a kind of database, for lack of a better term, for you to connect founders and investors and accelerators and everybody at different stages of commercialization. And then finally, ton of resources. You can get these on the site. You can reach out to me directly. But list of investors at different states, we got that. That's right there. Calendar of events if you're trying to network in with people in different meetups all around the state. This is kept up. A good list of resources. Other deed programs that aren't specific for this will help you navigate all that. So anyway, that's really what I want to share with you. I think we're at a really cool inflection point in the state of Minnesota. We're bringing a lot of these foundational pieces together, and I think it's going to end up yielding big results. So please contact me at any point. I do not have my state-issued phone yet. I'm that new. That is my email. You can hit me on LinkedIn. Any question, big, small, I really don't care. I'm really just here to try to help you to the full extent I can. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. I so appreciate it. And how many of you knew the story about the robot vacuum? And then how many of us actually have a robot vacuum? Because I don't believe in cleaning either. So to follow him, we were thinking about one of the importance about being here and what's happening with the pitch competition is recognizing the need for funding. Obviously, Rob was just discussing possible funding opportunities. And the next one I want to bring up is going to be Dr. Roberto Zayas. He's stepping in for the office's director, Dr. Nathan Wiedemann. He is out, unfortunately, due to COVID and does not want to give it to you. So he's watching virtually today. So thank you, Dr. Wiedemann. But I would like to bring down Dr. Roberto Zayas to talk about the Minnesota partnerships. Dr. Zayas, as he is coming down, come on down, I will introduce him. Dr. Zayas is a technology development manager within the Office of Translation to Practice here at Mayo Clinic. He is responsible for the identification, evaluation, and implementation of a new or developing technology and intellectual property. In partnership with Mayo Clinic Ventures, he handles translational projects and drives them towards commercialization. He brings years of experience in research, legal practice, technology transfer, academia, and entrepreneurship. Dr. Zayas has worked with world-renowned institutions here in Minnesota. and around the globe. Prior to joining OTP, Dr. Zayas was the director of HHMI, Inclusive Excellence, at the University of St. Thomas, or the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul. He has also spent time as an associate director of the Entrepreneurship Advisor for Mayo and Norway Innovation Scholars Program and is a visiting assistant professor of biology at St. Olaf. Welcome, Dr. Zayas.
Thank you, Rena. How do I move are the slides already good to go? Ah, there you go. Thank you. Nice to see some familiar faces that I don't see very often, especially from the University of Minnesota. First thing I should say, I'm going to be talking about funding, mostly funding that we get through the state. So for that reason, the first thing I should say is that we're honored and humbled by the funds entrusted to us by the state of Minnesota. So these programs, all of them are money that we get through the Minnesota legislature. Can you hear me? I'm not close enough to the microphone. Okay, next one. So the overall umbrella program is called the Minnesota Partnership for Biotechnology and Medical Genomics. This is a venture collaboration between the Mayo Clinic, the University of Minnesota, and the state of Minnesota. The goal of the partnership is to position Minnesota as a world leader in biotechnology and medical genomic applications that will result in new discoveries and also providing healthcare solutions to our patients and supporting the development of businesses like many of yours and jobs in the state of Minnesota. And for more information, there is the hyperlink to the Minnesota partnership. So within the Minnesota partnership, we have many programs that fall under that big umbrella. There's a big one that it's also called Minnesota Partnership. This one, it's just funding available for people who are faculty here at Mayo Clinic, our physicians at Mayo Clinic and at the University of Minnesota. This one is called the Minnesota Partnership. We have a request for proposals that usually takes place in the month of May. With letters of intent due in July. Proposals are invited during the month of August and are due September, and awards are announced during the month of December. These are significant awards between $1 million, $1.5 million for 2 years. As I mentioned earlier, the applications require that both applicants, that the co-applicants, one of them is from the University of Minnesota and one is from here from the Mayo Clinic. And the goal is the project must leverage the strengths of both positions or the applicants, the people applying for the funding. The focus areas for Minnesota Partnership funding, that big umbrella, big awards, are cellular therapies for Alzheimer's, organoids, cellular engineering and microphysiological systems, scaling multiomics, regenerative medicine, neuroscience, neuroengineering, technology platforms for novel diagnostics, sensors and therapeutics, data science and machine learning, and topics related to ARPA-H, like health science future, scalable solutions, proactive health, and resilient systems. So now we move on to a different award within the Minnesota Partnership. This is the Regenerative Medicine Minnesota, or as we call it, RMM. And RMM, the goal is to advance regenerative medicine here in Minnesota. It is a statewide initiative intended to open new economic opportunities through commercialization of technologies and leverage the strength of Minnesota's institution to put Minnesota at the forefront of the field of the regenerative medicine. So here's the good news about this one. How many of you are Minnesota-based companies here? How many of you are in the regenerative medicine space or gene therapy? None of you? There's one, at least one. Okay. Oh, I know you. So the Regenerative Medicine Awards are open not only to academic institutions, but also are open to small businesses performing scientific and or medical research in the state. Again, there are some requirements that the businesses have to be based in Minnesota and owned by people in Minnesota and operating in Minnesota. The requests for proposals are usually issued in the month of January. So we will be sending the request for proposals in about a month. And applications are due in March, and usually the awards are announced during the month of May. This is all based on what we did last year. We may tweak things for all of these programs a little bit this year, maybe not. But for the most part, that's a timeline that we follow for all of these programs. Within the regenerative medicine, we have 4 distinct requests for proposals, 1 for discovery science, 1 for translational, 1 for clinical trials, and 1 for infrastructure. The discovery ones provide $100K per year for up to 2 years. And we are looking for projects that advance the understanding of biology of stem cells or progenitor of stem cells and are relevant to human biology or disease, advanced applications of genetic research that is relevant to human biology and research, advance the development or use of human stem cells as tools for biomedical innovation, and lead to greater applicability of regenerative medicine discoveries to communities representing the full spectrum of diversity. We have another one for translational research or translational work. This is $400K for 2 years. And we are looking for stem cell-based genetic therapies, cell-based diagnostics, medical devices, non-diagnostics for stem cell-based therapies or critical stem cell-based therapies or gene therapy, novel tools that address clinical bottlenecks on the discovery or development of stem cell-based or genetics therapy, novel stem cell-based tools, and last but not least, novel cell lines to be developed as products for use in research and preclinical work. And the last one within RMM is for clinical trial work. That's $500K for up to 4 years. In this case, we're looking for first-in-human clinical trials for therapeutic candidates involving anything related to regenerative medicine, cell-based genetic therapy, succeeding clinical trials conducted after the first-in-human trial, so the follow-up studies, and clinical trials that aim to expand patient access to regenerative medicine-based therapies. Oh, no, I lied. That was not the last one. The last one is infrastructure. I forget about infrastructure. So this one is quick, $100K for 1 year. And the objective is to enhance the organization's ability to develop and commercializable. You shouldn't write down words that you can't pronounce, especially when you have an accent like this. Regenerative medicine-based therapeutics, diagnostic medical devices, or tools. And that's all I have for you today. So if you are faculty here at Mayo, University of Minnesota, the Minnesota Partnership is a great way to get funding for your work. And if you're a company here in Minnesota and you are doing work in the regenerative medicine space or are planning to, the RMM Award is a great way to seek fundings that you can use to de-risk your product and hopefully move it forward to the next stage, to the next level. So good luck to you all. It's good to talking to you. If you have any questions, I'll be around for a little bit, or just go to the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zayas. All right, we are going to continue. Now that you heard there's money that you can apply for, there is grant funding here from the state that you can apply for. We are going to move on to the next division. And I have the pleasure of announcing all of our walleyes for the mid-level division. There are 6, and they are phenomenal humans. And so their bios that I read may take 2 minutes each. So recognize that we say this because, and we want to recognize our walleyes and call them out because they're volunteering their time and they have been mentors in this space for a long time, or they are inventors themselves and they don't get showcased enough ever. So we want to showcase them. So first we're going to showcase Ann Cohen. Ann Cohen, founder and CEO of Roundtable Strategic Development, is a transformational advisor who excels in working with owners, boards, and executive leaders to resolve significant challenges, uncover opportunities across the business ecosystem, and leverage these opportunities to capture enduring growth and value. Among her many accolades is that she was awarded the University of Minnesota Carlson School 2022 Entrepreneurship Teacher of the Year. She was recognized as the 2022 Minnesota Cup Mentor of the Year and is valued as an ongoing advisor to the University of Minnesota's TechCom office, Tech Leadership Institute. She's also an active accredited investor and a member of the Gopher Angels. Thank you, Ann, for joining us this year. Next is Dr. Wes Wierson. He is a biotech entrepreneur and has been a gene editor for over a decade, training at Iowa State University, first using the TENS as an undergraduate and next with CRISPR. After inventing a virus-free gene targeting technology during grad school and working with colleagues to develop the business thesis to use in gene editing in the real world. Dr. Wierson founded the first gene editing company to be accepted into Y Combinator, Life Engine Animal Health Laboratories Incorporated, also known as Leah Labs, and has become its CEO. Leah Labs' mission is to develop novel living therapies like CAR T-cell therapy and bring them to pets first and then to people next. Wes has also pitched here as a junior angler, and so he is making a round the world event at the moment. He has come full to fruition as a judge. So thank you, Dr. Wierson. Dr. Perry Hackett is here again as our judge, and he has been here from the beginning as a judge who really champions the pitchers here. So welcome Dr. Perry Hackett, who has passed through Stanford, the University of Colorado, Max Planck Institute in Cell Biology in Germany, UCSF, before he came to the University of Minnesota. He is a professor of genetics, cell biology, and development, a co-founder for the Center of Genome Editing and Genome Engineering, and founder-director of the Biotechnology Initiative for Innovation, Collaboration, and Entrepreneurship. His research since 1964 is focused on molecular genetics and genome engineering. He is a co-founder of, I think you said 4 today, 4 companies, Discovery Genomics, Recombinetics, Novaclade, and I think your newest venture. So welcome, Dr. Hackett. Thank you for joining us again. Another returning Walleye is Dr. Helena Mendez-Juarez. She is the Director of Clinical Products at OneOme, where she oversees all aspects of product operations and development of the RightMed test, from user experience to clinical content and product delivery. She has over 15 years of experience working on scientific and clinical research and product development in the healthcare space. Having worked in a variety of environments, from small academic labs to large healthcare institutions, both in the non-for-profit and for-profit space, she holds a doctorate from the Indiana University and an MBA from the University of Minnesota. Welcome back. Thank you. Jim Wellenbring founded his own strategy consulting and leadership coaching practice in 2020, where he helps healthcare leaders develop winning strategies, not just for their companies, but also for their own leadership mastery. With over 30 years experience at Medtronic, Jim has developed executive leadership experience in business, therapy, and product strategy, digital health programs and marketing, business analytics, and commercial operation teams. He is an expert in defining and translating unmet clinical business needs into a winning product, therapy, data, and service solutions. Jim is a co-inventor on 9 patents and led the product, software, application, and/or service strategy for over 50 implantable devices, leads, external instruments, and software applications that meaningfully impacted millions of patients worldwide who suffered from cardiac or neurological conditions. Jim, welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Last but not least is Dr. Kate Taylor. She is a senior R&D manager for innovation and collaboration at Boston Scientific, where one of her favorite responsibilities is leading the Boston Scientific Connected Patient Challenge, a global digital health initiative challenge geared towards early phase startups. She has spent over 25 years in the medical device industry in R&D roles, working with new technologies, startups, and acquisitions. In addition to her industry work, she also serves on the Culture Translational Research Partnerships Oversight Board at the University of Michigan and the University of Virginia, and the GTech Biomedical Engineering Advisory Board, working with their Biolocity Translational Research Program. Welcome this year. Thank you again to all the Walleyes for serving. All right, with that, we will continue on pitching. The first one up is Point Biosciences.
Good afternoon. 51,000 people die every year due to liver failure, making it the 12th ranking it the 12th most likely cause of death in the United States. And despite the significance of that, the options for treatment are very limited. Only approximately 9,000 transplants are performed annually due to a lack of supply, while over 5 million people in the United States have some level of liver disease. And with a timeline, a wait list of about 1.6 years for someone to wait for a transplant, patients simply don't have a lot of time. Our external liver device extends survival significantly. So a 24-hour treatment can extend someone's life for over a week, enabling them to go to recovery, their own liver recovering, or potentially to find a transplant that fits. The Mayo Clinic developed this device and tested it in large animal models, showing significant survival advantage compared to controls as well as a filter-only device. The secret behind the device is hepatocytes, the functional cell of the liver. And so the blood water is passed through a bed of hepatocytes. Those primary hepatocytes then remove ammonia and detoxify the blood. It also has a filter that filters out excess water. Current status, we have patents associated with this device. There is a preclinical prototype of the device that has been used in pigs, dogs, and non-human primates to show that survival advantage. And we are currently producing a GMP level device. We're raising $10 million in seed money, which will take us through the development of that device and bring us through our preclinical testing, enabling us to apply for a phase 1/2 trial. With 150,000 patients in the United States annually being hospitalized due to liver failure and approximately $100,000 per treatment, the total addressable market is $15 billion. We have the team that can bring it forward, and I'm thankful for the time today and ready to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you for the pitch.
Yeah.
Couple of different questions for you. I was looking into the competitive landscape.
Yeah.
A lot of movement here. I was looking at an organization by the name of Dialive in London that just had some first in human, a lot of success there. So I'm curious how you're going to win this competitive race because you're in animals now, and how you're going to drive adoption.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular company. This has been tried on multiple times by multiple companies, and the secret really is those companies try to use cells that are not primary cells. So they use immortalized cell lines or iPS-derived cell lines, and unfortunately, those cells don't function at the same level as what primary hepatocytes. Usually 1/10 to 1/100th of the metabolic activity of primary hepatocytes. And so the volume that's necessary to pass through or the cost associated with it is so significant that you wouldn't be able to do a treatment for $100,000.
Interesting. Yeah. So this one, the Dialive, was an albumin filtration process.
Okay.
And as I said, they had some success. And again, looking for that substitution. So how do you get the medical establishment to adopt, and how do you get over that hurdle of adoption?
Right, and so there's a significant need. So I think we're talking about two different things. So there is a need for albumin, no question, in someone in liver failure, but there is an ammonia buildup in the blood that really is what causes the problem. And our device actually removes that ammonia, converts it into urea, and metabolizes the other toxins that are in the blood. And so it serves really as an external liver, giving that person the ability to their own liver to recover over time or give them time to get to transplant.
I'll catch you afterwards. Thank you.
Sounds good.
So thank you for a very interesting presentation. I'm curious how much is needed to actually bring this to trial, because a $10 million seed round is a fairly large seed round.
Yeah. And so it's going to cost about $3 million to build the device. So the prototype device has been tested in large animal models. Those data have been presented to the FDA. The FDA has made it very clear they want to see a GMP grade device that can really be rolled in and out of an ICU unit, similar to what you see in kidney dialysis. And so it's about $3 million to build out that device. And then there's an optimization process going on with the hepatocytes as well. So you're looking at 2 years of optimization with the hepatocytes. Right now, all of the data that has been developed was developed in freshly harvested hepatocytes. That's really not a functional opportunity for a hospital. So what we're doing is cryopreserving those cells so that we have functional disposables that can be stored in a freezer and ready to go at the hospital setting. So those two combined is going to cost somewhere in that $6 million range. The rest of the cost is associated with operations.
So I have a question surrounding the exclusive supply agreement with Cytotherics and how that could impact you moving forward, and if you're looking to bring that capacity in-house.
Yeah, and so Cytotherics is actually a parent company of Ponte. It's got a bioincubator that allows for the expansion of human primary hepatocytes. Ponte can use human primary hepatocytes, and that would be the preferred. But all the testing to date's actually been done with porcine hepatocytes, which could be sourced from a high health herd as well. And so the agreement does allow for Ponte to bring in, has a license, can bring in and develop their own bioincubator to produce hepatocytes. It's probably going to you're talking about probably 10,000 bioincubators to fill the whole market. So it's a significant number, but not outrageous.
One last question. What do you think what is the long-term use model for this treatment? Is it like kidney dialysis, where they can just keep using it over a very long period of time, or is it's more short-term, or is that one of the key questions that you're going to be answering?
Yeah, and so with liver failure, essentially people will recover from liver failure or they'll pass away. So you don't have this longer term issue. And so the liver, unlike any other organ, has the ability to regenerate. And so if you can give someone who even has 10 to 15% of liver function remaining, give them an extra 2 weeks to live, their own liver will actually recover. So there wouldn't need to be additional treatments, but it certainly could be used sequentially if necessary.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
All right, as we were just discussing also on the side here, the mid-level division does have a little bit longer to answer questions. So judges, you have a little bit more extra time to ask these mid-levels their questions. So next up is Dr. Efrain Torres for Adalante.
Hi everyone, my name is Efrain Torres. I am the CEO of Adalante. Now, I may be a bit biased in saying this because I have a PhD in it, but MRI is really known as the gold standard of medical imaging. There's really nothing else like it when it comes to delivering clinical value to clinicians across the world. The problem with this is these scanners can cost upwards of $5 million for the initial purchasing costs, with recurring costs of up to $300,000 per year. Not only that, but the footprint of these scanners is immense, being about 850 square feet. So looking at these numbers, it's easy to understand why many of us today know people who have waited days, weeks, or even months just to get in on an MRI scan. And this is the problem that Adalante has set out to solve. We've developed an affordable and portable neural-only MRI scanner that is lightweight, fits through a standard 3-foot wide door, affordable, and has a plug-and-play model easily to be installed. Now, I would love to show it to you today, but it's proprietary and we're currently securing international rights. Now, these scanners that we're developing are easy to be managed in clinics across the world, clinics like urgent cares. There's currently 10,000 urgent cares across the US, and nearly none of them have MRI scanners. And if you were to quantify this total untapped market opportunity, it would be a $2.9 billion market opportunity, assuming a unit sale cost of $300,000. Now, everyone here knows that MRI isn't just useful for urgent cares, it's useful for clinics and hospitals across the world. So we've assembled a team of RF engineers, MRI scientists, and entrepreneurs focused and dedicated on the goal of democratizing this life-saving technology. And with that, I'll take questions, and we're currently doing our seed round. Thank you.
Super cool, great pitch. The first question is how many of you folks are full-time with the company right now?
So right now we have 2 full-time, 1 3/4 time, and then 1 part-time. And we're currently hiring probably 3 more this coming summer.
Great, thanks. So I know non-dilutive funding I just saw was recently awarded on your website, so cool. But you say that this is a capital-intensive company, and then you're actively raising, what I would say is only 1.5 million. So I'm wondering how you came to that 1.5 million, and what maybe you could do, and how you could accelerate if you raised 3 or 5.
Yeah, so we came to that. So first of all, yes, we do have a very long and capital-intensive funding timeline, and I actually have this out here, kind of looking forward towards what we're looking to raise up ahead. Now, 1.5 million just private investment. Right now, the grant money is about 50% of that. Separate to that is a total fairly aggressive non-dilutive grant strategy totaling about $3 to $4 million. So if we hit the seed round goal, which we're fairly confident we will, and don't get the grants that we will have, then we'll do a bridge loan in between now and Series A. But with the number of grants that we're submitting, we're really using the momentum that we have to secure as much non-dilutive grant, and are being very aggressive on private investments and non-dilutive so that we can hit our goals. But as you mentioned, it's a long path to IPO.
Not great with technology, obviously. So this sounds great. Can you just explain to me how your technology compares to the portal MRI technology that's out there?
Yeah, so there's really two competitors. Actually, the only two portable MRIs in the market. One is Hyperfine on the left, and the other is Promaxo. So Promaxo, not really a competitor. They're focused on prostate scanners, prostate imaging only, and intraoperative. Hyperfine is a direct competitor of us doing neuroimaging. The biggest differentiator between us is that we provide a much higher field strength, which gives us much higher image quality. So Hyperfine is a great case study for us. They actually allow us to learn a lot. For example, reimbursement. We can clearly say that we're going to get reimbursed because they're getting reimbursed. Now, we also are learning from their mistakes in which they went too low field, 64 millitesla, which is it's a fraction of traditional MRI, and we're 5 times greater than that, which will lead to about 7 times more image quality.
I've got
Sorry, can I just have So a follow-up question is, there needs to be a balance between the quality of the output of your product, right, and how much people are willing to spend on it, right? As you said, you're an expert in MRI. How much is too much definition, and would providers really need that much definition, right?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we're surrounded with clinical advisors and radiologists, and the thing that we're seeking isn't 4K images. What we're seeking is clinical equivalency. Do we have the same clinical information needed to make the clinical diagnosis equivalent to a higher resolution scan? And that's why all of our images that we're developing are being vetted by radiologists, and we're looking at 3 key use cases: stroke, TBIs, and hydrocephalus. And those are 3 key, and it's an active discussion. I can't say here that 0.4, 0.3, 0.2 is the answer, because it's dependent on the pulse sequences, it's dependent on the hardware. But what I can say is that we're in consistent communication with radiologists to ensure we hit clinical equivalency.
I had something down here. Oh, exit path. So have you thought about that? I know you're out in 2032, but I'm curious about all these other larger MRI companies that probably would love to have this as part of their portfolio. So tell me a little bit about your hopes and dreams as you raise funds and perhaps even exit before that IPO.
Yeah, so as you can see by this table, we have a lot of juicy IP. So I'm sure incumbents would love to acquire us. Now, our own personal goals is our ambitions are as high as they can be. Our exit strategy is an IPO. We intend to roll out this product to market, and all of the goals that we have on the company are on true commercialization and true product rollout. For us, it's about IPO, because we have in this table here IP that we consider full-on disruptive. So we can undercut our current competitors, which are Hyperfine, but if you look to the future, we plan to take on the battle to larger companies.
One more quick question, please. So given the line that you're drawing between what is necessary to make the clinical decision, what should your device not do?
That's a great question. So what our device, not neuro. So we focused on neuro for a couple of reasons. One, it's the biggest market share, so 55% of the market. And 2, it allows us to really optimize our image quality and algorithms, focus extensively on neuro. MRI is so clinically useful that one of the first decisions we struggled with is, do we go ortho, neuro, limb? And we went with neuro because it's most widely used there and the biggest market share. And although you can say ortho is a juicy market, let's go focus on that, we want to keep our focus on neuro until we hit the mark with the first product, and then we can go to ortho and many other markets.
And with neuro, there's some urgency in many situations.
Yes, exactly. TBIs, It's a perfect example. Same thing with hydrocephalus, same thing with stroke. Urgent care clinics can't really vet stroke right now because they don't have MRIs. If we introduce an MRI, which we will, then they can evaluate strokes.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, next up. All right, we have Dr. Chris Russi with R4 Medical.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Chris Russi, I'm an emergency medicine physician here at Mayo Clinic. This is a development project. We are born out of DoD funding, and so we're looking for a licensing or potentially becoming a startup. So the patient you see here was involved in a motor vehicle collision at high speeds. They're hemorrhaging, and these patients can die within minutes. What you can appreciate is our transport teams are incredibly busy in a very compact space, and they have to process incredible amounts of information and data. This person ultimately needs emergency resuscitative care and surgery. The problem is the doctors at the hospital have no idea what's happening with this person. So the opportunity that we see is taking the patient's vital signs from the pre-hospital space by Bluetooth through a Mayo Clinic developed physiologic communication kit that transmits those vitals by satellite to telehealth teams and the receiving clinical teams. This is going to open the door for collaborative care before you get to the hospital and better prepare the team for your arrival. Mayo Clinic just spent $33 million on state-of-the-art aircraft that do not transmit vital signs to the hospital. Nationally, 30 million people across the United States call 911 for patient care requests, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the global remote monitoring market anticipated growth. We aim to target the high-level trauma centers across the United States. Our industry competitors have some solutions that are much too costly and do not function in non-cellular environments. And we think our solution alone could save Mayo Clinic Ambulance over $2 million on a purchase in the future. We have an amazing multidisciplinary team. The engineers here have over $25 million in DoD funding, and they have extensive experience in satellite communication and wearable technology. These are our milestones. We do have an active ongoing prospective trial right now. We have the devices in our helicopters and our ambulances, and we're hopeful for a product launch sometime in spring of 2026. We have some needs, including just simple business mentorship and guidance, and especially the regulatory path as well. And with that, I'll thank you for questions. Thank you.
It looks like you're addressing a terrific need. You've got Department of Defense funding. You've got Mayo backing you. Do you have letters of intent that will validate that your product is something that they really would like to see you develop?
Letters of intent, no. Customer discovery, yes. It's been modeled in multiple locations, and like we're using it now actively through a prospective trial. And so from the hospital side down to the paramedic in the field, I think they have great interest in this. And if you layer on, which was difficult to do in a 2-minute pitch, layering on machine learning and AI algorithms that are predictive models of critical illness, that is the next phase of this, absolutely. So yes.
Well, then that segues into what do you need to be successful moving forward? And you list as your first goal development of a spinoff, and then secondly, guidance for Series A funding. I'm curious about already thinking about a spinoff before you have Series A funding.
We're at the inflection point of we're working with Mayo Clinic Ventures. So do we license this potentially? And if that doesn't go well, do we spin off? That's where we need help and guidance through that process.
So it looks like, nice job. It looks like you're, one of your critical kind of competitive kind of advantages is the consistency of information, right? The satellite communication piece. So I just wanted to get a sense from you on how sustainable is that from a competitive advantage versus others who could develop something like that?
So I know of some competitors that are working in this space and using SATCOM technology. We just know their solutions are remarkably expensive and actually large. They're large to use. So from an operational or a tactical medicine perspective, having a device, and I brought prototypes I'm happy to show later on if people are interested, that physiologic communication kit you saw is no bigger than your iPhone. And it's a platform of wearables, actually. So there's a wearable that goes on the chest. We've got some for the finger that all go through that data aggregator that will communicate to the satellite. So our differentiator is if it's got a Bluetooth signal, it'll pull it, aggregate it, send it through the SATCOM, and now you can work in rural and austere locations.
I'm curious about your journey outside of Mayo Clinic, because my understanding is that Mayo has their proprietary EMS system. It's not on like an Epic or a more broadly adopted EMS system.
Right.
So part of your getting it outside of Mayo would require that those relationships with Epic would, okay. So
If
just
you
tell me a
wanted to
little bit about-
integrate it into the large EMRs, then those relationships will have to develop. And I think we've seen here at Mayo, Epic has been very good about integrating, bringing in data or data sourcing and bringing it in and putting in the medical record, which has been enormously helpful. This is where that would absolutely have to go at some point.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, next up, Tumor Blast. Just to mention, this team is coming from Florida, Mayo Clinic, Florida, as they won the internal pitch competition in Florida for Mayo Clinic. So welcome to Rochester.
Good afternoon. I'll start with a very simple question. Who do you think can get brain cancer? Every single person in this room, including you in the back and you in the front. But don't worry, there's a treatment for you. Tumor treating fields. All you have to do is shave your head, wear these huge patches that are connected to this 5-pound bag that you have to carry with you for 16 hours a day. And when you sleep, you just don't get any treatment. So you can see how this is hugely incompatible with day-to-day life. And isn't it worth it for our patients to do better? We make it worth it. Our device is battery pack free, it is wireless, it gets implanted at the time of surgery, so you wouldn't even know that it's there. We've already done preclinical tests in animal models, we've shown that it works, and it gets powered through this little battery that you wear behind your ear. Now, what started as a simple idea in the Department of Neurosurgery at Mayo Clinic got expanded to a stellar team of engineers at Arizona State University, and more recently to the University of Minnesota, where we will be implanting these devices in pet dog models that develop spontaneous brain cancers within the community. Now, we don't need to prove that tumor treating fields work. They're already approved by the FDA for brain cancer and lung cancer, and they're in multiple late-phase clinical trials for several other cancers. Now, you might say, well, not so many people get affected by brain cancer. Well, you're right, but what about lung cancer? What about gastric cancer, hepatocellular, and ovarian cancers? What about any other solid tumor that is actively proliferating? So if you have brain cancer, you want to be treated with this, not this. Thank you.
Hi. My first question is, what is the cost difference between the traditional approach and this approach? And when you say that you're getting good results with animal models, what do you mean by that? And what
Absolutely.
is the experience of the patient and all that?
Absolutely. That is a great question. I'll go back to this diagram. So this is the only commercially available model in the market right now. So what we're doing is an alternative that bypasses all the limitations with the current model. Now, when we say that we've tested in preclinical models, all we have to do is show that we're able to generate these alternating electromagnetic fields in animal models or larger animal models, but we don't need to prove that the fields itself work because that's already FDA approved.
So do you have data on the outcomes of the treatment?
Yes, there haven't been any adverse effects related to the treatment at all. And then the main limitations of the current treatment is heat generation through these patches, as well as contact blistering dermatitis, which our device gets rid of both of those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about, nice job. I have a question about the need to move, because with the configurations available today, you've got the ability to stimulate, or put the field in lots of different locations, right? And so by implanting something, you're going to be limiting that ability to move it later. And so how much adjustment do they do afterwards that you might have some restrictions on?
Absolutely. That is a great question. And that was a limitation that we had to think about starting off with our device. Because what we had initially proposed was a pair of wire electrodes. But with introducing more wire electrodes, we're able to encase tumors and make it more personalized to the person suffering with the disease. And in that way, we're able to encase the tumor so that we have a tumor in a box. And in that way, provide the sufficient personalized treatment.
I've got two questions on this. It seems really interesting. The first is, how does this compare with Neuralink, which Elon Musk is trying to develop with implantable chips? And the second is, do you have an animal model that this can be tested out on? And I'm assuming it would have to be a large animal model.
Absolutely. So I've passed around some of the prototypes in a Petri dish. Those are the models that we've used in a rat model and were proven to work. And now we're in the process of implanting those to pet models, but essentially would be the same prototype. And then to your question with Neuralink, those are primarily stimulators, for example, for epilepsy and stuff like that, whereas we're delivering the tumor treating fields for cancer therapy.
What are the efficacies of similar devices to date? I guess I'm just not familiar with this field. And then secondly, compared to your rat studies, have you compared one-to-one, or like what's new about your tech that might be replicated or
Sure.
might replicate what's already been known and done?
That is a great question. I'll answer this briefly in that this is the only model available, right? And then when we talk about tumor treating fields, it's basically talking about radiation. Radiation doesn't change. You just license the device that delivers radiation, right? So in a way, the way that the tumor treating fields work, and it is not only applicable to brain cancer, but applicable to any solid tumor that is actively proliferating, is that what they do, we have these specific charged particles within the actively proliferating tumor cells. Now, tumor treating fields are able to target those because of the high rate of proliferation. Now, by interfering with those charged particles, they're able to arrest the cell from proliferating in the level of mitosis by stopping the spindle assembly and essentially causing cell death. So in this way, it's applicable throughout all solid tumors.
Are these devices removed at the end of the treatment?
Yes.
So that would be an additional procedure then?
Excuse me?
That would be an additional procedure to remove it?
It can stay in space and then you can turn it off. They
Okay.
don't really matter. They get engrafted within the dura or on the surface of the organ, so it doesn't really matter whether you take it off or out.
So long-term chronic placement in someone's head after you're successful in treating their cancer is is okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Xantheos Health. Pinar, I will give the floor to you.
Hi, I'm Pinar. Over 9 million cancer patients face challenges like food insecurity and housing instability and financial burden, and that's directly impacting their health outcomes and healthcare costs. And today, cancer patients are given big resource lists and flyers through their oncologists and social workers, but this is very overwhelming. And what happens is that they end up in dead ends usually because by the time the services are needed, that they find out that they're no longer available. Our social referral platform, ConnectedNest, is the connective tissue between patients, community organizations, and providers. For patients, EmpowerNest is a mobile app that allows the patient to self-assess their social risk factors and self-refer to organizations and services. For community organizations, CommunityNest is the portal where they can list their resources and services in real time and update them in real time, allowing us to match the patients. And EngageNest is a HIPAA-protected electronic health record interface for the clinical teams, through which the clinical teams can also refer patients to services. None of the existing technologies right now have this multi-phased architecture design. Our ideal customers are oncology practices that are engaged in value-based contracts because they have to address the social risk factors of their patient populations to improve patient outcomes and reduce costs. And some capitated payers have very similar incentives. And we estimate that a $25 per person per month pricing would be supported with a 3-to-1 return on investment. And now is the time, with various federal initiatives and new payment models that actually integrate community support into payment policies. We've developed our technology largely through SBIR funding through National Cancer Institute. We were the team that won the Minnesota Cup's Impact Ventures this year, and we're recently finalizing and completing our pilot study with these amazing community organizations in our local Twin Cities that are focused on cancer. And to date, we've been awarded over $1 million in non-dilutive funding. And we have decades of experience within our team in economics, health economics, business, IT, cancer disparities, and community engagements to tackle this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Pinar. That was a nice job. When you think, I mean, a lot of us have probably a number of health apps that are on our phone, and probably a number of them that are unused, right, over time. And so when you think about patients, using this and not just trying it out, but actually adopting it over time, what are the incentives or the reasons why you think that they're going to adopt this and then use it so that they get the benefit of all the whole network?
Yeah. I mean, the SBIR funding was very, very great. That allowed us to develop this technology in the platform with lots of focus groups and key informant interviews with the patients and caregivers. So we actually addressed a lot of their problems as we developed it. And one of the things is what patients really face problems is that when they receive these lists or binders, they basically now say, we don't want any more binders. That's what we heard over and over again. So what we are doing is we're really automating this service for them. And cancer survivorship is such a long journey. One other thing that we heard a lot from the patients is that their social needs are changing over the course of their journey. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this patient activation and with very active community-based organizations. Like they say that today their needs is about house cleaning, but then they lose their job, they need legal care, or they have these more expensive drugs and they need help finding drugs. So that's what we are basically enabling the patients to use.
And have you done any tests or pilots or market research that looks at the long-term adoption of it or over a longer period of time?
Not long-term adoption. Our current pilot was a 3-month pilot, and we are just right now with that pilot. What was really interesting is we partner with the Minnesota Cancer Alliance, which is an organization that is a collection of community-based organizations focused on cancer. And with that, we recruited patients through the clients of these community-based organizations, so they're cancer survivors, and we measured metrics around engagement and ability for the technology to understand the social needs, the type of social needs, and our ability to influence the referral volumes. So we're at that, but the next stage is going to be exactly the kind of funding we need to be able to do this pilot in a longer term, in a randomized study design, and looking at longer term health outcomes.
Hi, Pinar. I love this this pitch and innovation because it's a way to make things work better. I really appreciate that. So I wanted to ask about different customers, not the patient, but everyone on the healthcare side. And thinking about how I work for Boston Scientific, how enterprise-wide software is rolled out across our company. Different divisions want to customize everything, and it makes things very hard. How do you anticipate those kinds of requests, people wanting different things, because that's not the way it's laid out, is not the way our department does stuff. And if you do go down the customization route, how are you going to manage that across different organizations?
No, that's a great question. The technology, there is no magic to technology in terms of scalability because it's designed with that flexibility in mind. Right now, for example, we are in our pilot, we are using the Accountable Health Communities screening model, but there's nothing that stops us from adding different surveys, electronic health, electronic patient-reported outcomes, ePROs, as different organizations may be interested in. So it's very customizable. And in our currently we're writing our STTR phase 2 grant, and through that, one of the goals is to some of the technical developments we want to do is to actually improve our APIs and white label the technology as well.
I'm interested in the CBO side of things, the community nest side of things. You are so lucky to have so many resources here. You know, I saw Gilda's Club up there. I saw so many community-based organizations that can support patients here. How does the back end of the software actually help select? Because I could imagine that there's some conflicts between these different organizations that could offer some of the same services, you know, so I was thinking about that. And then the other thought was, we're so lucky here in the Twin Cities, there's the other side of the picture where there's care deserts, you know, where perhaps there's not as much community support. So if you could just tell me a little bit about resolving those conflicts and actually filling those gaps.
Yeah, so actually, first question about these community organizations, yeah, they're fantastic and we're so lucky to have them. And they are such amazing partners in the pilot, and they have all signed support letters to be for our phase 2 application that we are submitting. Actually, on the contrary to what you are thinking maybe, is what we heard from them in phase 1 is that they want to create a community within themselves. So they're very excited about our technology because our technology allows them to refer to each other. We've designed that future because that's what we heard from them. And so Gilda's Club says, you know, we're great in terms of some of the support services that we do, but we want to be able to refer to Open Arms for some of the food insecurity, or we want to refer to the cancer legal care if the patient. And so they are actually not that, we have not had that, we have not heard it from them that they're competing in their services, but rather that they want to refer to each other for the complementary. And I think it relates to the other idea that the cancer journey and survivorship requires so many different kinds of supports throughout. The second question. Yeah, so one of the wonders of COVID is that it's actually created a lot of virtual care. So something that in between our phase 1, what we were developing during COVID and now, is that we had to basically advance the technology a little bit more to address that their programs when we're matching with the patients, that you know they actually deliver a lot of care at a state level and a nation level.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great job. Excellent. All right, moving on. Next one is Neurotype Inc. by Scott Burwell.
Hi, I'm Scott Burwell, and I'm going to talk to you about our clinic-based brain device to overcome triggers for drug use. So 30 million Americans have a substance use disorder, and of those who seek treatment, only a tiny percentage reach long-term remission. For the rest, everyday life is challenged by people, places, and things linked to your prior substance use that can challenge your recovery. Those triggers are hardwired into the brain through repeated drug intoxications, and they require targeted assessments and targeted treatments to overcome them. We're building Neuromarker, which is a brain sensor and software that identifies how your brain responds to triggers for substance use. The platform is designed to be at the clinic and delivers a biomarker to clinicians that can help identify when a patient is most likely to start using again to these triggers, and interfaces this with the provider, who can then provide point of care nudges towards in-clinic services and in-app exercises that are designed to reduce responsivity to such triggers. To date, Neuromarker is the only device that we see in development focused on disarming these kinds of triggers, and the only objective real-time therapy companion that can help somebody modify treatment based on trigger responsivity at the clinic. We see this as an $8 billion market at the moment, but we're focused on a much smaller intensive outpatient clinic setting where the need is greatest. Clinics will buy Neuromarker for $108 per session, and then they can be reimbursed from health plans based on existing CPT codes. We're currently kicking off an SBIR fast track project to integrate the neuromarker software and API with existing regulated EEG systems and test this in a clinical trial to better quantify the relationship to outcomes. We've had quite a bit of progress to date with over $1 million in non-dilutive funding raised. We've got a great team of clinicians, scientists, and other collaborators. But today what we're looking for is to build out our advisory board, build out our board of mentors, especially people in the medical device development space, and also clinical partners to help us alpha test the product. We're not raising just yet at this moment, but we will be in the next couple years, so please keep an eye on us. And at this point, I'd like to thank you and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Scott, for a very interesting presentation, and you certainly are hitting a huge clinical need. Can you help me understand how the information from the neuromarker is being used? You mentioned nudges.
Yeah. So,
what are you talking about there?
Correct. Yeah. So these nudges, right now, the only way to sort of disarm somebody's triggers in their environment or prepare them to deal with those triggers tends to be various forms of psychotherapy or certain kinds of mindfulness-based interventions. We're also collaborating with Vaughn Steele at Yale on our SBIR project that he's developing brain stimulation approaches to this. But at the moment, medications don't address this, and standard counseling or the other work around it is sort of an indirect way to approach it. And so in our project that we're going to be starting here, we're testing a couple different specific intervention approaches. So specifically something called reappraisal, how you see a situation, or also different forms of mindfulness, appreciating things that are non-drug based to sort of disarm the triggers. Does that answer the question? Or?
That's useful. With neuromarker, you've got some great information, but then having a treatment that could happen close to when the trigger happens, that would be the best outcome.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way we see it too, because at that point of care, when people are engaged with someone, because at that point of care, they don't really know what they're triggered to outside, whether it be an inpatient or an outpatient setting. You could feel just fine when you're reporting how you are to a clinician, but this simulates what it might be like in the real world.
So your introduction reminded me of bipolar, where, again, people just don't want the medications. How do you get people to enroll in this? I can see it as an academic research tool that would be terrific for those people who are interested, but for the larger market.
Yeah, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head here. Part of the reason to keep this at a point of care setting is because those tend to be the people that are, first off, at least somewhat open to the idea of treatment, but also this focus on an ambivalent population, people that don't know if they need treatment, they don't think they need treatment potentially, but they need to be convinced some other way. And oftentimes what convinces them is a life-threatening overdose or some other thing where they have a legal problem and they're forced to go to treatment. And so this is sort of an objective way to identify that somebody has a need. At the end of the day, though, it's still going to require some buy-in from the patient that they're seeing. Correct.
So
Go ahead.
I have a question about the CMS reimbursement. So there are procedural codes for, the therapy session. I imagine I'm one of the providers and, I request for the reimbursement and I get $150 for that procedure, right? You say that it's already covered, but that's not necessarily so, right? If I have to pay $100 for each session, then in reality, I only get $50 for that session. So you have to take that in consideration, not only as a procedural code, but as something else that you're going to have to bring in and also get a code for that probably.
Yeah, so actually the procedural code, so we're focusing on MDs for the moment. And the procedural codes that we've listed up there are for the EEGs themselves, what they're not billing for at the moment. And so actually the clinic can bring in more revenue from running one of these EEGs and pay us essentially half that. So it's 192 what they would bill insurance.
Got
and
it.
Ours would be 108.
Thank you.
The first thing that I thought about when I looked at the information packet on this were the GLP drugs, the Mounjaros. So they are all about inhibiting all of these cravings and alcoholism and things like that on top of, your craving for your donut.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about what your thoughts are on that class of drugs. And if you look at this as a potential kind of a monitor after an initial GLP treatment, how the two might work together.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think, the food space is somewhere that we're really excited to eventually get into. We're focusing on drug use because it's such an intense need and such a big problem right now. But I do think, this process of craving is not really addressed using current medications because they really are just replacing what's not there. And so if there are novel therapeutics that can be used for substance use, like some of these GLPs, right? That are proposed to disarm craving, I think that's like a super cool test case that we might try to work our way into. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To wrap up the mid-level reelers, I would like to bring down Dr. Dow for Empath Path LLC.
Thank you. I'm Tom Dow with MapPath. We exist to advance novel diagnostics and therapeutics for mycobacterial disease, such as tuberculosis. The world needs a better test for tuberculosis. Our solution is a point-of-care, fingerstick, a rapid test, and we expect this to be accurate, accessible, convenient, and affordable. Our point-of-care diagnostic is a proprietary target. It's optioned to us by the University of Minnesota. By comparison, there's the time-honored TB skin test, the QuantiFERON Gold test. We stack up well, extremely well, for turnaround time, reliability, and cost. We understand there's $1 billion global market. We're interested in the USA market. There's 13 million people infected in the US with tuberculosis. There are large customer populations, healthcare, agriculture and food service, and education. Nearly half the tests in America are done in 4 states. There are between 13 and 20 million tests, hard to get a handle on it, done each year in America. With our forecast, we have $90 for the test with a $22 margin. If we penetrate 2% of the market, that generates $23 million and a profit of 5.7. We're seeking $160,000 at this juncture as part of our pre-manufacturing budget. On our stringer, we have relationships with Biotechne and Heliogen. We have a team of seasoned professionals who know stuff and get stuff done. So, if you're fishing for a keeper, set your hook in MapPath. Thank you.
I didn't know that I was on. All right. You mentioned that Texas, New York, you had a slide that showed key states where most of the testing is happening now. Can you tell me a little bit about who is doing the testing now versus who will be doing the testing when you're able to accomplish this rapid test? It almost reminds me a bit of the rapid COVID tests that were developed.
Sure, that's our prototype, and what was elevated with COVID testing, of course, was the lateral flow assay and the broad embracement of that, and that's in our package. Certainly, immigration is a big component of those 4 states.
That's exactly.
Our consultant is a consultant for the CDC, this Dr. Thanasi, for the CDC and the VA, she helped shepherd the quantiferon gold testing. And with her anticipating good results with our test, we're happy to have her as our advocate.
So you're looking at CDC, you're looking at Department of Immigration. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you talked about a lower price point, right, compared to current alternatives. Why the lower price when when you offer such a rapid turnaround and such advantages potentially over what the current options are?
Yeah, we'd like to stand out at this point. We understand that there's going to be downward pressure on some of these. For instance, we understand Walmart is going to have clinics. CVS has the Minute Clinic. One of the reasons the TB skin test, albeit not so reliable, is the preferential test done today is that they can control the costs. And one of the reasons they control it is they cannot charge for the mandatory second visit to read the bump or no bump. So there's a lot of flexibility with the competition. So we'd like to have a price point where we stand out, not just for the turnaround time, but also the price. Yes, sir.
So you've got Biotechne as an interested partner or relationship, and it seems like your ask is extraordinarily small for what Biotechne represents.
Sure. So we have a statement of work with Biotechne. They did the work for the patent, and also the investigator, the inventor of the patent, was at Minnesota at the time, is now at Michigan State. He is our consultant. So the pieces are in place. We feel that this hurdle that we have at 160,000 will allow a rather quick trail. Thank you.
How defensible is the diagnostic as far as the target that the lateral flow assay is going after, and how quickly could someone else come up with something? And then you have 10 COVID tests on the market, 10 TB tests on the market.
Yeah, this arises out of interrogating the secretome of in tuberculosis infection. To date, we have 3 targets. They're meant to be a cocktail. We have a primary target that's area under the curve, 0.96. So it's going to be hard for the next person to find that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, now everyone gets to stand up and go get some food and something to drink while the judges deliberate. So if you are joining us online, we will be back in the atrium to award the winners.
Were you marking as you were going?
Oh, I don't fill out.
I was about to say. It's too short to mark. Yeah.
We both
Yeah, I thought, well, maybe it's just me. I wanted to be.
Pardon me? Yes, I did. Oh, I stopped. I actually stopped it. I got up at least.
Yeah, there's going to be.
How are you?
Since I started.
could be a fun party. Yeah. I think that's the big problem. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how much of the imaging industry is just like, because they went 1.5, 3, it's just a standard. And people don't go like, well, we actually see that. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Oh, did she have that? Yeah. Well, it's certainly possible. I have a friend who's out of but that's not to say that there won't be. Yeah. Okay. So we've learned that. Okay. We haven't investigated that, but do you have like a card? Okay, yeah, absolutely. Oh, really? Yeah, it's filmed out in Washington. But none of it is, then anybody has a tool for people that are 5 and 7. And in it, they're like 3. Here's where you can try it. Who's your drinking? Not separate. Are you still okay? Yeah. Oh, wow. I came into that room, like, all that stuff. And also, education practices. Sometimes drinking too many beers. Yeah. Although they say drinking one. Yeah. Not to single you out. Yeah. So, really interesting. I was, at one time, like, I had not felt this out. Okay. Yeah. And there was a yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. Especially, I was looking at this is great. Let's go to the alcohol company. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And have also control on how yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, sure. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's harm reduction when you're a student. The resource there, your fingertips. Insane. University doesn't get that ID. Okay. Yeah, okay. Interesting. I had no idea. I mean, it's kind of, the way we get our design is that we wanted to just really get the entire brain quality of it. And if you can design around that, excellent, yeah. It's common sense. I mean, our scanners like this. Yeah. We know each other. We're talking again, like, it's great to have you inside there. Yeah, thank you, yeah, hopefully. But, and this is Claudia. Yeah, thank you. Yes, it's fun. I mean, it's a neat there. It's great. The question is, do you have a sensitivity like this? Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're. Yeah, because once people start triggering this with university inside of the system. Oh, yes. And it's focused right on standard terminology. We have enough on the other spaces. Yeah. Yeah, the social network thing. Sure. Yeah, congratulations. I'm not thinking about this. I am 20 years old. You're lucky enough. You're went back to South Asia. Okay. I started working cardiac sciences. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Where? Oh, well, 20 of them? Yes. Taking care of one in Bengal. Well, that's lovely. One in Jungle. You know Christian Medical College. Hello. Oh, yeah. So CMC, I was vascular surgeon trained
Yes. I'm going to tell you.
Okay, I appreciate it. What do you need? What's that? What do you need? Oh, for what line? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just do the neck too and tell me what they find. Because I'm trying to find out like plant characteristics.
Yeah, that's all interesting. Yeah, right. I mean, because the cultural shift in what we think about cannabis and what we think about whatever, it always changes.
There's also issues. I texted you a week or so.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
993.
Because.
364.
Oh. Exactly, yeah. That's the biggest one here. Yeah, oh yeah, sure. And then there were also. So how long have you been in jail now, obviously?
Well, so I did
very tough people.
Yeah. So I did over in grade 16. I did my residency.
Whatever they're doing. Yeah. But that's the conventional version or? And people really feel.
Stands, kick cards.
I know because. I didn't know it was a college. No, it's cool that they have these events, because it is like you hear not infrequently about somebody like taking a dose of something that has never killed anything on anyone on its own, but then it's laced with this, fentanyl, and they're going. So the progress she said was $2 million. I didn't remember seeing that, but somebody went potential back to it. Whoa.
Yeah.
And he also opened the second one.
Oh. So what is yours in here?
Sometimes it's a break. So I have. Yeah.
Oh.
So I am mentoring this cause.
Okay.
It's to the actual prison now.
Okay.
And I'm getting your tech company. They do a lot of recipes on the brain back now. Yeah. So they tested it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, 25 is
not a part of it.
No. So they went, very well educated guys. I think it's always, it's always.
Yeah.
And then you know, keep active. Yeah, good. I'm Scott. Nice to meet you.
And so now you're basically.
Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I got this. Yeah. So I just come to this event. So I'm going to process. So I get to be involved here and now, whatever it comes. Yeah.
So maybe it's bipolar. Well, that's lovely to meet you. I reach out to you because I'm kind of, I'm a clinician. I operate. I'm like this is I have interest in like other ideas or other device issues. But it's like I have an idea every day. But
You should.
get it going.
So every weekend I'll always we have a neighbor, son of an idea next to us. I have an idea what his problems is.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Other things. And then there's basic illness problems. What is it? You want to focus on something at a time. Yes. That's a good one. We know people that if ever that's a struggle to turn on this. Yeah. So I have money for my son version of
Yeah. And then the other way around, if anybody has a clinical need, if somebody is looking for a clinical partner, feel free to tell them, like send them whatever. So like, if they need, say, somebody, patients do a carotid scan, or they need patients with aneurysms, or they need radiology.
Oh, wow.
Or,
Well, I don't know how I'll find that because you're running your career.
You might hear about something.
So there's another program I can what we did in India when I created this garden center. And we created a whole referral pathway around it.
I see.
Right? So
there is a marketing mechanism to it.
Got it. Yes.
If you do it more structured way,
Yeah,
you'll be better off.
that's true. I was not thinking of it, on those lines, but that's
Yeah.
true too.
Yeah. I mean, we can help you there.
Yeah.
To figure out a structured way of doing that. How do you do the outreach program? So that
Okay.
is something. I mean,
Okay.
technology solutions and then you can build to help you.
Oh,
with
cool.
that. I mean, is there underlying needs for your referral partners, right? How can you have a better referral?
Okay.
That could be a solution.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah, exactly.
But the point is.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, let's do this.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we.
I recommend it.
And we did chip design, we did set-top design for TVs and things like that, and we did med health.
Okay.
Went private just about 20 plus years ago, sold off the silicon side, sold off the set-top box side, and ended up keeping the connected health side.
Okay.
And so the last 25 years, we've been a connected health company.
Gotcha.
And I grew up in working for 3M on PAC systems, and I've been doing connected medicine probably close to 40 years.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
this is my passion, is to help develop things like this.
That'd be great. You know, we're developing the software in-house, but we've never developed a medical software, and so a lot of it's learning on the process. And
Which is what we do, is we help people.
Yeah.
And then my background is double being a physicist.
Okay.
So I've been a techie most of my career. I went into biz dev. I work for S3 as one of my consulting companies. I go find cool problems to solve, and then I put teams of people together to go solve them.
Cool.
And I get to do that, and that's where I said I'll never work for a corporate entity, a big corporate entity again. It's too much fun to go find people with cool problems. And then it shows me something new every day, like all the problems here, like the gentleman with the remote monitoring stuff.
Yeah.
That was working on that with physio control.
Oh, excuse me just for one moment, please. Hello, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the photographer. They would like images of each of the presenters. So if you presented, could you please go over there? And I'm just going to get a quick headshot. If you presented, just come on over by the corner for me real quick, and we'll get those. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for too. Is find ways to accelerate this.
And you guys are focused where? Here or
Minneapolis.
Okay, you're out.
Well, actually, Claudio's here.
You're here.
All right.
And you're out of Minneapolis.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you or not?
I was at the U. That's where we do most of our clinical research, but I am on my own. Right. Neurotype is my full-time thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Because I know Russ, I serve
Yep.
on the advisory board for the Office of Technology.
Yep.
Organization. So
Yeah, we went through one of those things.
One of
that
those-
they
one
had
of
a
the
few-
things we said in West
Yeah, we had a few of those actually, but yeah.
We actually have a spin-off I'm working with out of the university right now that came out of Boston side. And
Okay.
University of Minnesota, so get very involved in some of those things as well.
Okay. Cool.
And you're down here. Okay. We both met at the
Yeah.
It's like I do the partner.
Just a random meeting.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. That's the network that, you gotta come to these kinds of things now to get that
You
network.
gotta pay your dues.
You gotta pay your dues, yeah.
6 years ago, I said, I'm gonna start my own gig because I've been spending a lot of time writing, lecturing,
Yeah.
working in the industry, doing things. I had office in Boston, had office in California, had headquartered here. So I spent time on both coasts and just going and looking at cool problems. And I don't get to design anything anymore, but it's design of putting the right people and the right things and the right connections together.
Yeah.
And that's what I do now.
And I think that's what experience actually can do.
That's,
You know?
the young entrepreneurs that come out and say, I'm gonna go build the latest and greatest, and start talking to them about all the challenges associated with that, particularly in the medical world.
Yeah. Can't do it
My
yourself.
idea was just good enough.
Can't do it yourself, can't do it just two guys, can't do it, even just a handful of us, so.
All right, well.
I'm gonna grab a refreshment and use the restroom before, I don't know,
They'll be coming back.
Nice meeting you, absolutely. Do we come back in here eventually?
I don't know, I thought I heard him say they're announcing out there, but I could be wrong.
Well,
I don't know where out there it is.
I'm gonna go out this side because I saw the men's room is out this
And
side.
the men's room's on that
Also,
side.
You could come up this
Sorry to interrupt. Just one more call for any presenters. If you could come on down and have a headshot, please. If I did not get your picture, please meet me down over this way. Thank you.
I'll tell everyone again. All right, everyone. Ooh, that's fun. We're going to announce some winners. We're gonna bring them over here. All right, Mary. Where is Mary? Thank you. Oh, she's coming. So hold on. Well, first I want to say there's a reason that you are still out here waiting is because the judges really struggled. Because the competition was fierce today, and we had some amazing teams that are here. I'm going to say, okay, good. It's covered. All right. So we've been doing this for a while. All right. So a drum roll, please, for the runner-up in the junior division is Signal Grab.
There's no money with this one.
You just did this, though. Congratulations. Smile.
Very good job.
Take note, the student in the division. All right. And the winner, do you want to, let's see, make sure we get the right one out here. Hold on. Let's get this one. Oh, man. $4,000. Care Chronicle. Congratulations. Mid. This one is yours. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, and for the next division, for the mid-levels, whoop, here we go. The runner-up is, drumroll, $6,000, MAP Path, tuberculosis testing. There you go. Ooh, there you go. Congratulations. Of course. All right. The winner of $10,000 tonight is Adalante. Here you go. Great job. We have one last trophy to hand out tonight. Mary will not be joining us for Walleye Tank again. Thank you for 10 walleye tanks. A spring and winter edition, of course. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, for those who stayed on online for a while of deliberation, for the Office of Entrepreneurship team who has helped put this on, to our students, to our grad students, to our surf students, to the University of Minnesota. This takes a lot of people to put together. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight and for participating in such a fantastic event. Thank you. Can you turn me back on just for the judges? Can you come over here for a picture? All the judges.